This is David Elo. This is BHF Foundation, BHF Media. This time out with Elo David, we will look at news that is making the rounds, and also we'll try as much as possible to see how we can be able to bring the news to your doorstep so that you can have a clear understanding of what is going on in the Middle East, and also to interrogate the news in Nigeria also, so we can be able to look at what is going on also in Nigeria, and also how to be able to give our own little advice to the upcoming generation. Like we always say, the youth of these days have very little role models. The conventional media, the mainstream media is failing. We have too many stories that are not right. The government is failing. We have governments all over the world who take pleasure in lying. Most of the things they say, they are not correct. So it looks as if telling of lies is now part of leadership across the nations of the earth. So the youth cannot really depend on the federal government. They can't depend on the state government for informations because most of the things they say, they are not correct. They are just they tell the people what they want them to hear, but what they intend to do is completely different. Like I've always said for a very long time, I say, look as if lying now is also part of politics. If you're not a very good liar, you cannot be a successful politician. For you to be able to be a successful politician, you must have a PhD in telling of lies. You must have a master's degree in manipulation and a PhD in telling of lies. And so first and foremost, we want to start by saying, by looking at what is happening in the Middle East. The war is still going on. Israel is mopping up and wrapping up the war in Gaza. At the moment now, Blinken is in the U.S. The American Secretary of State is in the U.S. It's in Israel, trying to see how he can be able to broker a deal. The Biden administration, which is the Democrats, they are doing everything possible to see how they can be able to achieve a ceasefire before the election. I know the U.S. election is about 2 weeks from now, less than 2 weeks from now, 13 days to be precise. 13 days to be precise. So they are doing everything possible to try and see how they can be able to broker peace between Israel and Gaza. So Blinken is right there, the American Secretary of State is right there in Israel, trying to see what he can do. But he was welcomed by a barrage of missiles that were released from Lebanon. A lot of missiles were released from Lebanon, which they used to welcome the U.S. Secretary of State to say you are welcome. A lot of missiles were released, and also the house of the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, was targeted a few days ago. They shot an Iranian-made drone, which was able to penetrate. I think about 5 drones were shot or so, about 4 of them were put down, but one was able to penetrate the Israeli defense system, and it landed in the house of Netanyahu, but he was not at home. I think the target was to assassinate Netanyahu and his wife, but the target was not at home. The Iranians have said they are not involved, but Hezbollah have claimed responsibility for that drone attack. And again, the Israeli Prime Minister also went ahead to say it's a very big mistake which they made. It's a terrible mistake. Mind you, the Iranians have shot twice now, one in April, March, and also early this month rather. They also shot a lot of missiles into Israel. Very minimal damage was made. A lot of people, it was intercepted by the Israeli defense, by their defense system. The air defense system was able to intercept some fell in the river, in open space, and so very little damage was made. I guess the only casualty of that incident was a Palestinian man who was killed because of the drone was intercepted. The pieces of the metals of those drones that fell on him, and he died instantly. And so the only casualty of the last Iranian attack against Israel was a Palestinian man that was killed in Gaza. So the whole world is bracing for an Israeli response, which the Israeli has vowed that they must be they are going to respond. But so far, the Iranians have also done everything possible to see how they can be able to visit the regions to try to talk Israel out of a response, because they know that the response will definitely be devastating. Now, the Iranians themselves have said any response from Israel will also meet their own terrible response. So there's quite a lot of debate now on where Israel should target. Some of the opinion that the Israeli Defense Force should target the Iranian nuclear site. Some were of the opinion that they should target their oil revenue, because it is from those oil revenue that the Iranians are using to finance their proxies, which they call axis of resistance. The Iranians are the world's biggest financier of terrorism. That seems to be where a portion of their wealth is going to. A portion of the wealth of the Iranians, of the Islamic Republic of Iran, a portion of their wealth is going to servicing terrorism around the world. It is rumored that they paid close to between $700 to $1 billion every year to Hezbollah, for their activities and the rest. They supply their ammunition, they give them cash, which they use to service the terrorist network and their cells across the world. So the whole issue is still there. Let's see what the American Secretary of State will be able to achieve right there in Israel. I guess after the death of Yahya Sinwar, which the leader of the Hamas in Gaza, he has been wiped out. He has been eliminated. He has been deleted from the world, and I guess he must have finished his discussion with his maker, and by right now he must have been assigned to his destination. So Yahya Sinwar is killed. Has been eliminated. So right now we don't really know who is taking over from Yahya Sinwar, and so the Americans are hoping that with the elimination of the Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, the other members of the Hamas group will be able to come into a ceasefire agreement with Israel, so that they can be able to return back to their homes, because over millions and millions, over 2 million to 2-point-something million Palestinians right now are living as refugees. They keep moving them from place to place, and they keep surviving on aids that are coming from the UN and other donor countries. Of recent, both the Israeli government and the United Arab Emirates sent some aids to Gaza, and the aids came in through parachute, because most of the areas through which they will have passed through, those aids will have passed in, the warehouses and the rest have been practically destroyed by the IDF, and it's a terrible scene for those Gaza residents. A lot of them are going through hell. For over a year now, the Gaza residents have not been able to. They have not been able to go back to their home. They've not lived a normal life. They've not been able to live a normal life. As I said, the students have not been able to go to school because they've been displaced after the October 1 attack by Hamas. You must also remember that the present crisis in the Middle East now was initiated and started by the late Yahya Sinwar, which is now Yahya Sinwar's. It's no more Sinwar, it's now was, because it's no more in existence. It is believed that he is the masterminder of the crisis. He's the masterminder of the attack against the Jewish states. And that very particular attack took about 1,200 lives were killed, were raped and killed, and children, old people were cut to pieces, were burnt alive, and all kinds of nonsense which the Hamas terrorist group did. And they took away about 240 as captives, but children, infants, 5 years, 6 years, small boys, small children, infants were also taken as part of hostages, which they took to Palestine, then to Gaza. They took a lot of female hostage. Most of them, reports came in that they were sexually harassed. Of course, what do you expect? This is a terrorist organization. Some of the women were raped, were harassed, were maltreated, abused. And out of that 240 that were taken hostages, about 400 and something were injured. Were terribly injured, but they were not taken hostages. So among those hostages now, at least about 114 to 117 to 120 have been able to find their way back to Israel through a special deal which was brokered by US, Qatar, and Egypt to allow for a temporary ceasefire and for exchange of prisoners. They released a lot of prisoners, and the Israelis released prisoners from Palestinian prisoners from their prison, and also the hostages were released by Hamas. So about 120 hostages have been released. At the moment now, about 110 hostages or so is remaining. Within that range, about 100 and something hostages is remaining. And among those 110 hostages, there's this rumor that about 50 or 60 of them have been eliminated. So in the real sense, the hostages that probably are alive now are not more than 40 hostages that are alive at the moment. I know these people have been kept in terrible conditions. They stay under tunnels. They've been there for over a year now. You don't see the sun, and so you just be sitting in one place or lying down in one place. And most of them, some of them are sick, old people that are on drugs, and they've not been able to take their medication. So you don't really know how many of them are alive at the moment. So this is where we are now. So there's no guarantee that the hostage for ceasefire deal that Blinken, American Secretary of State, is trying to broker now. There's no guarantee that it's going to work because so far those who are speaking for the Hamas are insisting that until Israel pulled out completely from Gaza, they are not going to release any of the hostages. Like I said, about a week or two, less than 2 weeks ago, Yahya Sinwar was killed, and he was killed in such a terrible manner. We see him through the IDF drone that was sent to monitor the house that he was staying in. He was covered all around like somebody who is sick. He was actually trying to see how to escape. So he was killed in Gaza. He was attacked and killed in Gaza, and it was a terrible sight I saw. He was not killed fighting. He was killed wrapped up with his bodyguards, cover his face that they would not know. In fact, we saw a video of him trying to use stick to stone the drone that was sent to monitor him before he was killed. So his last days were actually in pain because he was already in pain. I believe he was injured, and he was there. And I began to ask myself, this guy had opportunity to live with just a deal to release the hostages so that he can be allowed to cross probably into Egypt, but he insisted, and so he was just killed. So that brings. So a lot of the leaders have been killed. I know before then, Hanea have also been killed. So most of the top leadership of Hamas has been eliminated, just the way they've eliminated also the top leadership of Hezbollah. It's quite unfortunate, but of recent now, we said it some time ago, but there was no really confirmation from IDF. But what we said some time ago has proven to be true. Safeddin, the brother, the cousin to Nasral Hassan, the lead, who was the next in line, and who took over from Nasrallah, and was supposed to be, and he is not supposed to be the leader of Hezbollah. It was confirmed that he was among those who were killed about 2-3 weeks ago. So the job of the Secretary General of Hamas seems to be a very tough job. Not be job when anybody would like to take for now, because At the moment now, there's application. If you know you don't have anything doing and you're looking for a job, you can write your application and see how you can submit probably to BHF Media or submit to the Hezbollah terrorist network, because they are looking for who will take over now. The first person, their leader for about 32 years, Nasrallah Hassan, was killed, eliminated. He was sent to the great beyond. And the person that took over, the cousin, Safeddin, that took over himself, has been sent again to the very, very great beyond. And so at the moment now, there's a job vacancy for the Hezbollah leadership. If you want the job, you can apply. The pay is handsome. You have a handsome pay. You have a bunker, a bunker you will stay, a free bunker that you will stay. You will be paid handsomely. But the only problem right now is that you try as much as possible to make sure that your face is not seen and not known. Because immediately you are identified as the new leader of Hezbollah, be rest assured that you have become a target to be assassinated by the IDF. The IDF assassinating crew will be looking for you. Immediately you say you've agreed to become the Secretary General or the leader of the Hezbollah terrorist organization. Be rest assured that you have a short lifespan. The same thing for Hamas. All the leaders of Hamas have been practically eliminated. So at the moment now, nobody has been named as the leader of Hamas. Again, that's a tough job. If you want to become one of the leaders of Hamas, you can write an application. But the only problem is that your lifespan will not be long, because the Israelis will be on standby to take over, to take you out. And the new Hamas leader was not killed alone. He was killed with some group of people around him. In fact, the head of the intelligence, the head of the Hezbollah intelligence network, Hussein, was also killed along Safeddin. He was among those who were killed along Safeddin. He's also one of the commanders, one of the leaders of the Hezbollah network. And so, but again, the Hezbollah is still firing rockets into Israel, northern Israel specifically. And some of the missiles have even gone as far as Haifa, as far as Tel Aviv. The war is not reducing. The war is increasing. Although most of the capabilities of the Hezbollah network, terrorist organization, have been destroyed. The Israelis said at least 75% of the Hezbollah capabilities have been completely dismantled and destroyed. Over 1,500 to 2,000 Hamas fighters have been killed, including the commanders. 99% of the Hamas commanders in Hamas have been eliminated. Most of their senior commanders, if not even 100%, have been completely eliminated. Completely eliminated. It's only those junior rank and file that seems to remain. The rest leaders have been eliminated, have been sent, have been given a visa for permanent residence out of planet Earth. They've been metadone. So they are at the moment now, just like they believed there will be at least 72 virgins. We welcome them. Immediately they breathe their last on earth. So we have a lot of virgins on standby now waiting for them, because Israelis are determined to ensure that they wipe out Hezbollah. But can they actually be wiped out? I don't think so, because it's an ideology. And you cannot wipe out an ideology. Because even if you ask a 10-year-old boy, 11 years old boy, he tell you that he believes in the cause. I told you I listened to an interview sometime they were interviewing some of the young boys in Gaza. Those guys that I watch on those interviews should not be more than probably between 10 to 12, 13 years. 7, 8, 9, 10 to 13 years old boys, about 4, 5, 6 of them. And you'll be amazed at what is coming out from their mouth. I'm talking about 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. They tell you that their mission on earth is to see that Israel is eliminated. In fact, they asked one of them if they should arrange for a two-state solution, they can have the Israelis as their neighbor. And you see this 9 years old, 8 years old boy said never, they will never have Israel as neighbor. Israel must be wiped out. So you see that it's an ideology. So even if you wipe out this set now, they've been able to brainwash the next set that they will even be worse than this. It's an ideology. It's going to take time. That's why when we talk about two-state solution, I know definitely it can work. It can work. Because these people have been taught, brainwashed, informed, and told that is a commandment of Allah, is a commandment of God, according to them, for the Israelis to be wiped out. So they see it as if they are doing God a favor. They see it as God's desire, as obeying God. That's what they've been able to tell the younger ones. They've been able to brainwash them. They see it as being obedient to Allah if they wipe out the Jews. So when I hear people talk about two-state solution, I know definitely that it's not going to work. It cannot work. The two-state solution cannot work because the Israelis are willing to stay with the Palestinians in Gaza as neighbors. They are willing. I listened to some documentary some time ago where they were saying they were even having most of them were working in Israel. That's the funny thing. Before the October 7th, most of the Gazans, they come to Israel. In fact, most of them that are sick and that are not doing well, they take them to Israeli hospital where they treat them, where they take care of them. I listened to a lady that was saying they were feeding them, they invite them down, even to the Kibbutz area within the Israel territory. They provide food for them, they care for them, they try to love them. They try to see how they can become good neighbors to the Gazans, to the Palestinians in Gaza. So the Israelis over the years have been trying to see how they can live in peace. They've been trying to see how they can show them love. But these guys are not wired that way. These guys have been programmed religiously. The worst form of programming is religious programming. It's a terrible thing when people are programmed religiously. Where they tell them that it is the will of Allah for the Israelis to be killed. I listen to the Hamas charter, where you say even when you have, I watched the charter when we were reading the charter. It's like their book, their mission, their objective, their vision. And one of the things I read in the write-up is that it will get to a time where even if the Israelis run to hide under a rock, the rock will say, "Oh, ye Muslims, come and Israeli is hiding here. Come and kill the Israeli." And I wonder how people can write such a thing. It's not about peace. It's not about living in peace. It's about killing. And I get confused and I get weary. I still cannot understand how people can believe in their hearts, that it is the will of God for them to kill people. So whatever the Israelis are doing, whatever the Hamas are doing, to me it is wrong. Sorry, I have to take this bit of liquid. So to me it's wrong because so far the Gaza Health Ministry said over 45,000 Palestinians have been killed. Over 45,000 Palestinians have been killed in this senseless war. And I've always said in this program, what is the purpose? Yahya Sinwar that started this rubbish now that is going on now. What did he hope to achieve? This is the crisis that has caused all the leadership of Hezbollah to be wiped out. Even their long-standing leader for 32 years have been wiped out. The second in command that they just appointed, his cousin Safedin, has been wiped out. Most of the commanders have been wiped out. And you ask yourself, what is the purpose? Why did they start the October 7th in the first place? What were they thinking they hoped to achieve? It's unfortunate that Yahya Sinwar has been killed. It's now Yahya Sinwar's. I would have preferred if he was captured and asked what was his aim. Because he has brought so much pain, so much casualty. The other day I read when they said over 14,000 children have been killed in this war. Innocent children. I'm talking about children. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, old children have been eliminated in Gaza. And you ask yourself, what is the purpose? And now you cannot totally begin to blame the Israelis for those eliminations. You can't. Because in the first place, it seems to be a strategy between Hamas and Hezbollah to use their own people as human shields. And you begin to wonder if they care for their people at all. You begin to see them storing ammunition in schools. They store ammunition in mosques. They store ammunition in religious centers. They store ammunition in the hospitals. They build bunkers under hospital, under humanitarian area, under houses. They build bunkers there and load them with ammunition. And what do you expect the Jews to do? What do you expect the Israelis to do? They know that you have missiles there. They know that you have bombs there. They know that you have weapons there to kill them. They will see the weapons and they will say, no, we are not going to destroy those weapons. We are not going to attack those weapons. It is from those places they launch missiles into Israel, hoping to destroy Israel with those missiles. And you expect that the Jews or the Israeli Defense Force will see those missiles that have been put in houses, in hospitals, and they will do nothing about it. And it's unfortunate because the IDF so far have behaved, to me, they've done everything possible to reduce the casualties. Because you begin to see situations where I don't know if the Russians are not doing it in Ukraine. We've not heard that anywhere the Russians want to attack, they will first announce. These people will the IDF will print millions and millions of leaflets, millions and millions of leaflets. They will begin to use helicopter to distribute leaflets everywhere, telling people to evacuate. They will begin to send text messages, millions of text messages, telling people to evacuate, that we want to bomb so and so area. What else do you want them to do? But the Hamas guys will not even want them to leave arm's way, because it seems as if these guys are not interested in the people. The people is not their interest. In fact, they want to use the people as the bargaining chips. They want to use them as human shield. And it's the same thing that is happening even in a wider scale in Lebanon, where they begin to store ammunition in houses, ammunition in homes. They begin to put missiles and rocket launchers, drones. They put them in civilian quarters, civilian houses. Okay, of recent now, the IDF have been able to discover that because for about a week now, the IDF have been targeting seriously the Hezbollah financial institutions. They destroyed the banks. They destroyed their financial institutions where they have money. They have been destroyed. They've destroyed a lot of places with cash. Now, but they were able to also find out right now that they were able to, a hospital, underneath the hospital, that's where they store millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. And gold were stored under this hospital. But thank God that this reason prevailed. The Israelis, the IDF have not attacked the place, and I hope they don't attack it. Because at the top of those places where they put their resources is a hospital. And so there's no way you will attack these underground bunkers that will not affect the hospital on top. So you begin to wonder who gave them this kind of idea, where they begin to turn civilian areas to military zone. They turn civilian areas to military zone, where they stop bomb. We saw footage the other day of garage, vehicle garage, of sitting room, where they put missiles pointing towards Israel, civilian sitting room. And these people are so scared that they cannot even tell them no. That's why the IDF will always continually tell the civilians who want to attack so and so area, better leave. And if you allow your house to be used as a storage weapon, where they store weapons for Hezbollah, then you are taking a very big risk. And it's quite unfortunate. We just pray that the special envoy sent by Biden to Lebanon to discuss with the Lebanese and probably also with the Hezbollah on how to achieve ceasefire. We pray they should be able to have a breakthrough, because so far the Lebanese government, they seem to be scared of Hezbollah. The Lebanese army are scared of Hezbollah. The what do you call them now? The United Nations peacekeeping force that are supposed to ensure peace and make sure that they don't go beyond the Litani River. They themselves are scared. Like the IDF said, the UN peacekeepers seem to be working with Hezbollah together. They also mount their observation posts and work hand in hand with these peacekeepers that are supposed to enforce. In the first place, this whole crisis would not have been there if the United Nations peacekeepers were able to do their job. Why were they sent there? There's a United Nations resolution that states that Hezbollah should be disarmed. Not only disarmed, but Hezbollah should go beyond the Litani River. They shouldn't go beyond that. They should not go beyond the Litani River. In fact, the Litani River should be the boundary where they are supposed to stay. They are not supposed to stay more than that, which is some kilometers, some reasonable kilometers from the Israeli borders, where it will not be easy to target the Israelis on the northern front. But they didn't do that. The UN could not do that. Just as we've always been saying, it is becoming obvious now that the UN has been completely compromised. And so they couldn't enforce the United Nations resolution. And that's what the Israelis are trying to say right now, that for there to be a ceasefire, the Hezbollah group must move beyond the Litani River, and they themselves must have access to fly aircraft within that area to ensure that they don't come back again. It's not a difficult thing. It's nothing difficult, because in the first place, Hezbollah is not the Lebanese army. So what is their business? What is their business of trying to hang around the Israeli border? They have no business there. But it's unfortunate there seems to be it's an Iranian proxy, and so they seem to want to carry out the Hezbollah assignment. I'm talking about if we want to have ceasefire, let them go back. And it is time for the Lebanese themselves to be able to rise up to say, no, we are not part of this war. Look at the women and children that have been displaced in Lebanon right now. I mean, the Lebanese government already have their own financial issues. They have their own issues. For the past 5 years, the government have not been able to perform. It's a failed government. I think the Lebanese as a nation, they have one of the worst currencies in the world. Their currency is completely dead. And so they've just been managing to exist. They don't have a functional president. They don't have a functional government. So the Iranian proxy, Hezbollah, seems to have taken over Lebanon. They use Lebanon as their own territory to store ammunition and to fight the Jewish state. So it's time for Lebanon and the Lebanese people to be able to rise up and say enough is enough. We are not part of this war. We don't want to be casualties of this war, because we don't want the war. We are not part of the war, and we cannot be casualty of the war. So they must do everything possible to see how they can be able to tell the Hezbollah guys, my friend, you have to go back to Iran. Maybe you can be operating from Iran. Don't operate from this country anymore, because you are bringing problem to our doorstep. But of course, who is going to enforce it? The Hezbollah terrorist group, they are well-funded, more funded than the Lebanese army. They are more motivated, they have more equipment. Before the war, the Hezbollah were said to have between 100,000 to 150,000 missiles, projectiles, rocket launchers. They have Iranian-made drones, very powerful, one of the best drones in the world. The Iranian-made drones, they have it. And so they've been fully motivated with money from Iran. They have so much money. And the Lebanese army, they don't have anything. So there's no way they can be able to withstand the financial power, the material power, and the military power of Hezbollah. So their army is not a functional army. They don't have the capacity. They don't have the capacity because the nation himself has failed. Oh, it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing for you to, poverty is bad. It's bad. It's bad. I watched a documentary of Lebanon in the 50s, in the 60s. Oh my God. It was called the Paris of the Middle East. It was a wonderful place to stay. Everything was moving well. They were living in peace. It was a tourist destination until this Islamic terrorist group came in. And everything turned to war. Everything turned to war. Everything became crisis. Kill, kill, kill. It's all about banditry. It's about killing and killing and killing and killing. Whether you like it or not, you must be converted to their group. If you don't belong to their group, you are not fit to live. I begin to wonder how can people be living and talking like this in this 21st century? And so that's where we find ourselves now. It's so painful. I don't know how Anthony Blinken is going to do it, but I'm not optimistic of any ceasefire in Gaza for now, because these guys are not prepared for ceasefire at all. In fact, they are prepared for crisis. They are prepared to fight to the last limit. As far as they are concerned, what they are prepared to do is to fight to the last limit. And so they are not thinking of peace. And when we're looking at it from that angle, we begin to also search the Israeli retaliation. Because the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, they are determined to ensure that they also retaliate. Because these are three situations now. The first missiles that were sent to the state of Israel about April, March this year. The second one that was sent in October. And a few days ago, an attempt to assassinate Netanyahu. That's the third attack. And there's no way the IDF or the Israeli state, just like what Netanyahu said, he said this is a very big mistake, because there's no way they will go without being attacked. And so while we are talking about peace, there's also another front of heavy violence, because the Iranians have said that they are going to retaliate. Should I use the word retaliate? Because the Iranians have shot 3 times now. But they said any attack from the IDF will be met by a stiff response also from them. So is there any hope at all for a peaceful settlement on this issue? Sorry? Is there any hope for a peaceful resolution of the crisis? If only Hamas would be willing. Some of them are surrendering, some of the Hezbollah people are surrendering to surrender and give up this fight, which they will never win. They will never win it. And release the hostages, then we are sure at least people, the civilians in Gaza will be able to return back to their homes. They'll be able to return back and build up their homes, because 80% of Gaza has been completely destroyed. If they start building Gaza now, it will take another 10 to 15 years to be able to return Gaza to where it used to be, because it has been completely destroyed. Completely destroyed. But the earlier there's a ceasefire and they begin to think of returning back, the better. The better. It's so important for the remaining leaders of Hamas to know that they cannot win this fight. It's impossible. They can't. They can't. The best thing for them is to ignore Iran and begin to think of a peaceful resolution of this whole crisis. They should make up their mind that they want to live together in peace. They should not follow the dictate of Iran. Whatever Iran wants to do, Iran should do it themselves. They should be able to rise up and say, no, Iran is enough. We're not going to listen to you anymore. Anything you want to do to Israel, do it yourself. So we know it's a direct confrontation right now between Israel and Iran. But trying to begin to use people to fight their battle, give them money to fight their battle, and put their life at risk is unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And it's sad, like I said, it's sad, it's unfortunate what is going on now, and we continue to pray that it comes to an end. So far, the financial institutions have been destroyed, completely destroyed, and Beirut is still under attack. The Hezbollah are also shooting drones because they have a lot of them. They have missiles, over 100,000 missiles. It was estimated that they have about between 40 to 50,000 foot soldiers. So if you have killed just only 2,000, they still have about 48,000. So the war is a long way to go. To me, the best thing now is to opt for settlement, because the IDF, they are not prepared to give up. They will continue bombing, and if something is not done, they will turn Gaza. They will turn Lebanon to another Gaza. The Hezbollah themselves, they are not prepared to give up. They have more than enough ammunition. They have more than enough foot soldiers. They have drones supplied from Iran. They have more than enough missiles, rocket launchers. So it's only going to cause the people pain, because both the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, and the Hezbollah are not prepared for now to give up. And if they say they want to continue this war, I can assure you that the two sides have enough ammunition to last for another 3 years, continuously. Because Hezbollah have ammunition, enough ammunition, they have men, they have fighters, close to 50,000 fighters, if not more. And so, my own suggestion is that they return back to status quo. They should go back to United Nations resolution. They should go back above the Litani River, so they cannot continue to cause harm to the innocent people, innocent children, innocent youths, innocent women. Some of them have run to Jordan, some of them have run to Syria. They ran out of Lebanon to Syria, to Jordan, because of the continuous bombardment by the Israeli Air Force. So like I said, Hezbollah will be very foolish to think that they can defeat Israel. And the Israelis themselves, the IDF, must be confused to think that they can defeat and wipe out Hezbollah. It's not possible. They are too equipped. They are one of the most equipped terrorist groups in the world. They are too equipped with ammunition and men. And so it's not something that can be achieved in one year. The fight just started about 2-3 weeks now. Yes, they've eliminated the leaders, the top-ranking leaders have been eliminated. But they still have foot soldiers, thousands of them. So the war between Israel and Hezbollah is not a war that can be won in the battlefield. To me, it's only a war that can be achieved and won through diplomacy. They should convince the the Hezbollah terrorist group. They should convince them, for the sake of the civilians of Lebanon, for the sake of the civilians, the Lebanese, for the sake of the Lebanese civilians, the Lebanese children, women, infants, the Hezbollah should be willing to accept a ceasefire and go back to obey the United Nations resolution that told them where they should remain, where they should not pass specifically, instead of wasting more lives. Because to me, more lives are just wasted. More Hezbollah fighters will be killed. There will definitely be 1 or 2 casualties from the Israeli side. But thousands and thousands of millions. Right now, over 2.5 million Lebanese have been displaced. And not just displaced, we have a lot of Lebanese now who are living in fear. Because you don't know whether your house will be the next place they will target. A lot of places have been destroyed in civilian areas, because that is where the Hezbollah terrorist group, that's where they put their ammunition, in civilian areas. And the Israelis are not shy from destroying those places. And that's where we are now. So please, let them be ceasefire based on genuine reconciliation. And the number one step towards ceasefire is that the Hezbollah terrorist group should move out of the Israeli border. Because definitely if they don't move out, the IDF will force them out. And there's no way they will force them out without casualty. There will be so much casualty. And in trying to force them out, they will be targeting those places where they store their ammunition. I know most of these ammunition are always stored within civilian areas, which means more and more civilians will become casualty. And the most painful part of it is more and more Lebanese civilians, not Iranian civilians, Lebanese civilians who don't know anything, who are not part of this crisis, who have nothing to benefit from this crisis, nothing to benefit, who do not have agenda when it comes to this crisis. So these people are suffering for something they know nothing about, something they are not part of. Just because their masters in Iran wants to get Israeli busy so that they can be able to focus on their nuclear program. They want to get Israeli busy. And souls are dying, perishing on a daily basis from constant killing on both sides. But majority of the killing is taking place on the Hezbollah side. And they spent years preparing for this. Not 10 years, not over 20 years preparing for this. Because if you carefully look at what is taking place now, you will be shocked. Look at the tunnels. These are not just ordinary tunnels. These are sophisticated tunnels. These tunnels must have taken millions and millions of dollars to build. These are not tunnels that were built in 2 years, 3 years, 10 years. But if you look at the tunnels, they are like guest houses. Vehicles can pass through the tunnels. We see bicycles, we see drinks, we see canned food, canned drinks. They have restaurants, they have toilet facilities, they have chairs. It's like a flat. It's like a flat, it's like a house underground. And some of these tunnels are going straight and straight and straight to the Israeli border, which means right from Lebanon, you can walk in that tunnel, and the tunnel just enter into Israel. This is what they've been spending thousands and thousands and millions of dollars to build. Millions of dollars have been spent to build these tunnels. Now these tunnels are now destroyed. In some of these tunnels, we begin to see ammunitions. Like I said earlier, we begin to see foodstuffs. They are just like residential areas. But for the sake of the children, for the sake of the women, for the sake of the youths, let's have a ceasefire. We beg Hezbollah to return back to where they are supposed to be, so that there can be peace. Because these people are displaced. We watch them now. Look at them, displaced. The same thing that happened in Gaza is what is happening right now in Lebanon. Women and children are moving from place to place, displaced. And I expect the international community to enforce their resolution and to tell the Lebanese that they must obey the United Nations resolution. They must go back beyond the Litani River so we can have peace. Because the Lebanese people deserve peace. The Israeli people deserve peace. We need peace. And for us to have peace, this crisis must stop. The United Nations resolution must be obeyed. I want to carefully look at that. Now, this is the news coming out from the Middle East. In the US, the election between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, the election between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump is very close. The election is less than 2 weeks from now. Two of them, both Joe Biden and Donald Trump, it seems to be a par in terms of rating. It's going to be a tight, very tight vote. Voting is already going on. I think it's one of the most, it's going to be a tight contest. And to me personally, somebody asked me once, how do you look at the United States election between Joe Biden and, I keep calling Joe Biden. Joe Biden had been kicked out of the race and substituted by Kamala Harris. Between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. As I look at it personally as an election between good and evil. An election between good and evil. And I wish them the best. The American people have the right to choose who they want to govern them, who they feel has the credential to govern them. They have the right to choose who they feel. I thank God that the United States election will not be more like Nigerian own. Because the one of Nigeria is carelessly rigged. People are bribed and manipulated, all those things. And I don't think it will be so common there in the US. So there's going to be a tough contest. And we hope earnestly that the best candidate, as I said, should win. We'll finish the news, talking about the news making headline in the Middle East, and right in America is the election. Then in Nigeria, we'll round up in Nigeria in the next few minutes. We also want to look at the news making headlines in Nigeria. 15 states have decided to take the federal government to court over the creation of EFCC. They're insisting that EFCC is an illegal organization and it didn't pass through the constitutional process, and so EFCC must be scrapped off. There are those who believe that it's a matter of corruption that is trying to fight back. And there are those who believe that those who are entrenched with so much corruption, it is corrupt governors, corrupt leaders that are trying to use these governors to fight against EFCC. To me, the EFCC, they might have their own flaws. It's possible that it's very favorable to see that most times the government in power seems to use the EFCC to favor or to fight against the opposition, sometimes, not all the time. But no matter how you look at it, there's no way you will score the EFCC 0%. Yes, they've not performed well, but the EFCC has done well. To me, I would say the EFCC has scored 60%. They've scored above 50%. Because it was established in 2003. And in 2003 till now, there's been a lot of money that have been recovered. Billions and billions and millions of dollars have been recovered. Stolen wealth have been recovered. It's possible they are beginning to dive into what does not concern them. The other day we heard a particular landlord in Abuja, you're trying to use the EFCC to evict a tenant, and I said, no, that is wrong. The EFCC cannot be another police. We have police, and we have laws. So the EFCC is about financial crime. And I don't think tenant owing their landlord is a financial crime. The tenant did not say he's not owing his landlord. So involving EFCC in the landlord and tenant matter is way above what they are supposed to do. They've stepped outside their boundary. So in that case, yes, they've stepped outside their boundary. But apart from that, the EFCC have tried. Because our biggest problem in Nigeria is corruption. Corruption. If there was no EFCC, the governor of Kogi State right now that is alleged to have stolen over 100 and something billion naira with properties everywhere, nobody will hear of it. the former Accountant General of Nigeria that stole over 100 million naira. You know, although that case is still very funny, nobody knows where the case is right now. He was arrested. After some time, he was released on bail, so probably he's in his house right now. It's Nottingham. Maybe he's in his house right now, marrying more wives, because he has 100 billion in his account with him now. It has not been recovered. The case will be in court, and you know the way the Nigerian judiciary work. Before you know what is happening, the man will be 90 years. The case is still in court. Probably his children will inherit the case, because we have a judicial system where, when it comes to the rich people, the case is slow. The case is always very slow when it has to do with rich people. But when it comes to do with the poor man, the case is very fast. Because the judiciary seems to have sympathy for the rich. You know, and so maybe that's one of the reasons why people also feel that they don't even have need for EFCC anymore, because the rich people seem to be getting away with it. Well, I think it's not completely correct. The EFCC have tried. Look at the case of Joseph Darie, for example. There are other cases here and there of money that have been restored. We've seen people who have done play bargain. You know, so there have been a lot of convictions. Even the EFCC have been able to record some successes, some victories in the courts. A lot of money have been restored. People have been jailed. You know, so left to me alone, I don't know. They said towards the end of this year, this month, that's when they are going to pass verdict. The Supreme Court will pass verdict, but already there's a story coming up now that 3 of the states that took part in the lawsuit against the EFCC have withdrawn. So if 3 have withdrawn, that means we have just 12 states remaining that are taking EFCC to court. So what I think is that EFCC can be fine-tuned, because if we do not have a regular and distinct body that fights corruption, there's going to be a problem. I don't want EFCC to be given more powers. And not just giving more powers, we also expect that the punishment for fraud should be increased. Maybe life imprisonment. You know, there shouldn't be anything like plea bargain. People, once you're corrupt government officials, the EFCC is able to prove their case and they find out that yes, you have been convicted by the court, your offense should be life imprisonment. Life imprisonment. That's the only thing. Because if we get to go by this plea bargain, the only thing you need to do is to steal 100 billion, for example, and you go to court, you do plea bargain, you return 50 billion, you keep 50 billion. What do you call that? What do you call that? It's like an armed robber that is caught. You take the armed robber to court, you catch him, you take him to court, the armed robber gets to the court, and the armed robber wants to do plea bargain. And the armed robber will say, I stole 300,000. I want to return 200,000 and keep 100,000 so that you will let me go home free. That's madness. That's madness. People should be punished for crime. All these plea bargain, PDs, we should set up a special court, a special anti-corruption court. A special anti-corruption court should be set up to deal with the issue of corruption, except something is done. I'm telling you, even those that came in this government, we saw a viral video that day of a Nigerian that is based in Canada that was complaining of how his friend that was just made a minister bought 4 houses already. So a lot of Nigerians are buying houses in the US and Canada. In this government, they just came into government. Already they are buying properties. Where are they getting the money for? What is their salary? What is their salary? What is their income? So corruption is still taking place under this government, massive corruption. So what we expect is that the EFCC should be more empowered. They should set up a special court to handle the case of fraud. We should not pay lip service to fraud. The problem we are having today is because of fraud. Fraud will destroy Nigeria. There's no country where you have this level of fraud that will ever survive. Nigeria as a nation cannot survive under this condition of fraud. No matter how beautiful the program of the president is, he will not be able to succeed if this level of fraud continues. Fraud in the civil service, fraud among the politicians. This fraud is worse. The looting of our treasury is still going on. The state governors are looting. The federal government are looting. Agencies, parastatals are looting. The looting is much. Trying to succeed under this kind of fraudulent system is like trying to fill the basket with water. The more you put water in the basket, the more the water will be leaking. If we want to succeed as a nation, we must kill fraud. Fraud. I mean, Buhari came in, the few people that voted for Buhari, they came in because they say integrity, want to fight corruption. But when he came, it's possible Buhari had a mind to fight corruption, but when he got there, the corruption gave Buhari a technical knockout. His government now becomes one of the most corrupt governments in the history of Nigeria. The man that came to fight corruption. Now we have under government, the same party, under government, continue. Imagine what the humanitarian minister of Buhari regime spent. Till today, there was a time a court said she should account for it. I don't know whether she has accounted for it. Because there are a lot of underground discussions taking place, and before you know what is happening, you won't hear it again. That's why Nigeria is where it is. And I can tell you that the policy of this government now, the reform agenda, will not succeed as long as corruption is on. And anyway, thank God the Minister of Finance was able to come out to say, in performing this particular reforms, the poor should be put into consideration. You want to reform the country before the country is reformed, half of the country will divest. Do you want to kill the people in the form of reform? Reform that is not affecting the senators, it's not affecting House of Rep, it's not affecting those in the presidency, it's not affecting the governors. The reforms is only affecting the poor citizens. It's an evil reform. From a terrible organization like the World Bank and the IMF that don't mean well for Nigeria. So please, the case is already in court. I'm only giving my perspective. Let them set up a special anti-corruption court to handle the case of corruption. Let's make corruption very dangerous. There is no man that sees acid that wants to drink acid. Let's make the penalty for corruption very deadly. That nobody, even in the dream, will think of corruption because he knows the consequences. But now there's no consequences. The Abia State governor raised an alarm that day that the governor that was there before him built an airport. Until today we are looking for the airport. And maybe the governor is out of this country enjoying himself. Nigeria cannot continue like this. We must make up our mind. If you love this nation, please, let's deal with the issue of corruption. Let the EFCC come to stay. Let them fine-tune in EFCC, make it more powerful, make it truly independent. That even those in this government now, the parastatals, the ministers, can be arrested, tried, and convicted if found wrong. Let the EFCC not be used as an instrument to chase enemies of this government. Then they have failed. Let the EFCC be reformed, so the presidency alone does not have total control of EFCC. If the appointment of EFCC is done by the presidency alone, there's a problem. Because he that pays the piper dictates the tune. As long as the presidency that appoints the EFCC chairman, the EFCC chairman will be in control of the presidency. As long as it's the presidency that appoints the judge, the chief judge, they will all do the bidding of the presidency. And it's unfortunate. We must think for a way to reform it, to cut down the powers of the presidency. Because the president of Nigeria is too powerful. And people keep talking about federal mind, federal mind. I mean, the minister right now that is trying to fight, the former governor is a minister now that are having issues in the state, trying to fight the states. The reason why he's doing all this thing he's doing right now is because he has the ears of the president and is working for this administration. He would not have done it. So you keep hearing people say federal might, federal might, federal might. As long as we operate with that system of federal might, it will make it difficult for Nigeria to succeed as a nation. As we round up, please, we'll meet again tomorrow. We'll continue. If you have your own comment, we've already seen some people trying to write comments. Should the EFCC be scrapped? To me personally, I think no. EFCC should be reformed. Because corruption will continue and get to its worst state if they remove EFCC. By the end of this month, there will be judgment to know whether EFCC should be scrapped or not. To us here in BHF and to me personally, EFCC should remain. It's in the court. But I think what they should do is to reform the EFCC and set up a special court to try corrupt leaders, both those in government now and those outside this government. We'll meet again tomorrow. Take good care of yourself. Do that which is right, and always obey the law. Thank you very much.